They say the suburbs are quiet. Peaceful. Nothing more than backyards, dogs barking at squirrels, and lawnmower engines humming on Saturday mornings. I used to believe that. Maybe because I wanted to believe it. We'd lived in this neighborhood 6 years by the time I hosted that barbecue. My name's Jake. Ordinary guy, early 40s, nothing fancy, sales at a regional warehouse chain, same office chair 5 years running. My wife, Karen, teaches kindergarten at the elementary school across town. Sweet woman, always brings extra cupcakes for her class on Fridays. We'd been married 12 years at that point, and we were in that comfortable silence phase, where you don't say much, but you know you're loved. Or at least, you think you do. That Saturday in early June was one of those gold-tinted days where even the air feels like it's smiling. I'd spent the morning cleaning the grill and marinating steaks while Karen prepped salads and lemonade. We invited the Browns from 2 doors down, Doug and Stacy. Typical couple. Doug was one of those guys who always wore sunglasses on his head, even indoors. Built like he still lifted weights, always cracking jokes a little too loud. Stacy was quieter, almost invisible beside him, though she had a sad kind of beauty in her eyes, like someone who hadn't slept right in years. By 4 o'clock, the backyard was full of laughter, beer bottles sweating in the sun, and the crackle of meat on the grill. Doug flipped burgers beside me, arm around my shoulder like we were lifelong pals. Karen laughed at one of his dirty jokes, not in a flirty way, just polite. Or maybe I missed something. Looking back, I wonder if it started earlier than I ever realized. "Jake, you grill like a damn artist," Doug said, biting into a medium-rare steak. "You oughta open a restaurant." I chuckled, brushing sweat off my brow. "Only if you'll be my first customer." Later, the sun dipped behind the trees, and the citronella candles took over. The air smelled like smoke, spice, and cheap wine. Karen was inside clearing dishes, Stacy leaned back on a deck chair sipping rose, and Doug was telling me about his job in construction, something about a new apartment complex going up on the west side. At some point, I went inside to grab more ice. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Karen?" I called. Nothing. The kitchen was empty. Dining room, too. Then I heard it, faint thumping, like something falling and hitting the wall. From the garage. I thought maybe something tipped over. We had boxes stacked up, old Christmas decorations, Karen's mom's sewing machine. But when I opened the garage door, I froze. There they were. Doug and Karen. On the floor, half-dressed. She was saying, "Stop," but her voice was tangled in gasps, and she didn't pull away. His hands were gripping her wrists. It didn't look romantic. It didn't look tender. It looked like something violent and wrong, and she was crying, but also, not fighting like I thought she would. I didn't know what to do. I stood there, heart in my throat, until Doug turned and saw me. He smiled. Like I was just another spectator at one of his damn parties. I slammed the door. Went back outside, breathing hard, vision pulsing red. Stacy asked where everyone was, but I mumbled something about Karen not feeling well. I barely remember the rest of the night. Somehow we said our goodbyes, and Doug walked away whistling like he hadn't just wrecked my world. Karen didn't talk about it. Not that night. Not the next day. I tried, God, I tried, but every time I brought it up, she'd say, "You didn't see what you think you saw," or, I told him no. But her eyes said something else. I didn't sleep much after that. And that was just the beginning. The next morning, the world didn't end. The sun came up. Karen poured coffee. Birds chirped like they hadn't seen what I saw in the garage. That's the strange thing, how life goes on, like nothing happened. But something had. Something permanent. Karen acted normal. Smiling, humming as she folded laundry. When I asked if she was okay, she just blinked. "Why wouldn't I be?" she said, folding one of my shirts with neat, practiced fingers. I wanted to scream, to throw the basket across the room. Instead, I nodded. No reason. But of course there was. For the next few days, I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that maybe I misunderstood. She said, "Stop," didn't she? But she didn't push him away. She didn't scream. And he didn't look afraid of what he'd done. No shame. No panic. Just that smirk. I started watching her more. When her phone buzzed, she'd glance at it a little too fast. She started locking it at night. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. and find her on the porch, barefoot, staring at the stars. When I'd ask what she was doing, she'd smile like I was the crazy one. "Just thinking," she'd say. "Go back to bed." By the third week, I knew. She was seeing him. Maybe not in the way you'd think, not openly. But there were gaps in her schedule. Staff meetings that ran too long. Errands that couldn't wait. She came back flushed, breathing heavy. Not from running. From something else. I confronted her. "Are you sleeping with Doug?" She froze, holding a cup of tea halfway to her lips. Her eyes flicked sideways. "What kind of question is that? It's a yes or no." She hesitated. A full 5 seconds. Then set the cup down gently. "Jake," she looked tired. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." She didn't. She just walked away. From that point on, it wasn't a marriage. Not really. We shared a roof and a mailbox, but the warmth was gone. At night, she curled up facing the wall. I lay awake, listening to the sound of her breathing and wondering if she was dreaming about him. Eventually, I stopped asking. Instead, I found Stacy. It started by accident. I was mowing the front lawn when she waved from her porch, her eyes shadowed by those oversized sunglasses. I don't know what made me walk over. Maybe I just wanted someone to see me. Really see me. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she replied, then added, "You look tired." I shrugged. "Long week." She gave a small laugh. "You and me both." It turned into coffee. Then drinks. Then confessions on her back porch, both of us nursing resentment like old injuries. "I know about Doug," she said one night, her voice flat. I stiffened. "You do?" She nodded. "He's always been that way. He likes married women. Says it's a game." That was the word that hit me hardest. Game. To Doug, my wife wasn't a person, just another trophy. "I'm sorry," I muttered. "For what?" she said. "We're both victims." That night, she leaned in and kissed me. I didn't stop her. Maybe I wanted revenge. Maybe I needed to feel wanted. But the truth is, in her sadness, I found something familiar. Something broken in me matched something broken in her. It became a regular thing. Quiet. Secret. We were two abandoned people clinging to the warmth of betrayal. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. Not after what Doug took. I needed more than comfort. I needed justice. And I knew where Doug was weakest. His body. I knew where Doug went every Tuesday. He'd bragged about it once over a beer, said he did volunteer construction work for the VA hospital downtown. Just helping out the boys, he'd said, like he was some damn hero. That's the thing about guys like Doug. They want applause for every half-good thing they do. He never mentioned that while he was hammering nails in the morning, he was wrecking marriages at night. For a while, I just watched. Followed him once, parked across the street. Watched him walk in with his stupid sunglasses on his head, grinning at the receptionist like he owned the place. He'd wave to people. Shake hands. Play the part of the good neighbor. I didn't have a plan at first. But the more I watched him, the more the idea grew inside me. Quiet. Steady. One night, back at Stacy's place, we lay side by side on her bed, her head resting on my chest. Rain tapped gently at the window, and I could feel her breath slow as she drifted off. I want to ruin him, I whispered. She didn't move. But she didn't say no. Instead, after a few seconds, she whispered back, good. The next few weeks were all about patience. Research. Observation. I looked into the VA facility's staff, procedures, policies. Turns out, Doug had gotten friendly with a nurse named Callie, early 40s, single, pretty in a sharp way. The kind of woman who didn't ask too many questions. He used her ID to access certain off-limits areas. That's where I found my opening. A nurse's ID badge is just a piece of plastic. With the right kind of scanner and printer, stuff you can buy off eBay, I made a duplicate. Took me a few tries, but eventually I got it right. I wasn't going to shoot him or stab him. I didn't want to be obvious. I wanted it to look like fate had finally caught up to him. Like karma had a clipboard and a schedule. Doug had a minor surgery coming up, routine hernia repair. Outpatient. In and out. I watched him brag about it one afternoon to the mailman. Couple days off work, free pudding, what's not to love? What he didn't know was that I had already slipped a fake chart into the system. Used Callie's credentials. The chart listed him under a different name. New medications. Pre-existing DNR order, do not resuscitate. I didn't even need to hack anything. I just printed it, filed it in the right tray, and let bureaucracy do the rest. He went in smiling. He didn't come out. Complication during recovery. Nurse checked the chart, saw the DNR, and, well. They followed orders. Cardiac arrest. No resuscitation. Just like that, Doug Brown was gone. At the funeral, Karen cried. A lot. I didn't. She looked at me once, like she expected me to say something. But what could I say? Sorry your lover died on the table? Hope he was worth it? Instead, I held her hand. Played the grieving friend. Everyone called me a pillar. Doug was like a brother to Jake, they said. And I smiled. The next few weeks were quiet. Karen was subdued, like part of her had gone with him. She never talked about Doug again. Never asked questions. Maybe deep down, she knew. But that wasn't my concern anymore. I still saw Stacy. More often now. She didn't say thank you. Didn't need to. Sometimes we'd lie in bed and say nothing at all. Just breathe. Just exist. Two broken people, finally free of the one man who poisoned everything. And me? I slept like a baby. Because when someone makes it their hobby to break families, to smile in your face while gutting your life from the inside, you don't mourn them. You erase them. And you move on. After the funeral, the neighborhood got quieter. You'd think that losing someone like Doug, loud, brash, always filling the air with dumb stories and backyard drills, would leave a kind of silence behind. But it wasn't that. It wasn't silence. It was tension. An unease. Like something was off-kilter and everyone felt it but no one could say why. Karen drifted through the days like a ghost. She smiled when she had to, at the grocery store clerk, at the neighbor kids on their scooters, but there was no light behind it. Sometimes I'd catch her looking out the window, her face distant, like she was waiting for a car that wasn't coming. And I didn't say a word. Let her feel it. Let it twist. I still mowed the lawn, paid the bills, kissed her forehead before work like nothing had changed. But everything had. The lie between us was no longer a secret. It was a routine. And with Doug gone, I thought things might settle. Even improve. I figured Karen might come back to me in time. But I was wrong. Because ghosts don't leave. They haunt. One night, I came home late from Stacy's house. I'd told Karen I had a sales meeting out of town. She barely blinked. By the time I walked in, it was after midnight. The lights were off except for one in the kitchen. Karen was sitting at the table. Still. Silent. She was holding something. Doug's sunglasses. The ones he always wore on his head. "Where'd you get those?" I asked carefully. She didn't look up. "I found them in the garage." I said nothing. She turned the glasses over in her hand. "You know what I remember?" Her voice was soft. "The first time I really laughed with him. It was that barbecue. He told me I looked like someone who'd never done anything reckless. Said I should try it. Just once." I leaned against the counter, jaw tight. "You didn't laugh. You cheated." She flinched. "I didn't mean to," she said after a long pause. "I didn't go out there thinking it would happen. I felt small. Forgotten. You were always tired. Distracted. Doug made me feel seen." "He used you," I said. "Maybe," she admitted. "But I let him." There was a long silence. Then she asked the one thing I wasn't prepared for. "Did you kill him?" "What kind of question is that?" I asked. She met my eyes. A real one. I looked at her, really looked at her. And for a moment, I thought about telling her the truth. About how I rewrote Doug's chart. How I watched him walk into the hospital with that same arrogant swagger he always had. How I made sure no one would come running when his heart gave out. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "You think I could do something like that?" Her lips tightened. "I don't know anymore." She stood, placed the sunglasses gently on the counter, and walked past me, her shoulder brushing mine. That night, she didn't come to bed. That became a habit. A week later, she moved into the guest room. No big announcement. Just quietly folded her things, carried them down the hallway, and shut the door behind her. We lived like that for a while, separate, polite, hollow. Meanwhile, Stacy and I burned hotter. Now that Doug was gone, there was no guilt. No second guessing. She came over when Karen was at work. Left little traces, a hair tie, a different brand of perfume, sometimes a single earring. I never hid them. If Karen noticed, she said nothing. But I could see the cracks forming in her eyes. She missed him. She'd never say it, but she did. Even after everything. Even after he took her, broke our marriage, then left her behind. Grief does strange things. But so does revenge. The deeper I sank into it, the more hollow I felt. I thought removing Doug would bring peace. Justice. Instead, it left a vacuum. And something darker moved in. Stacy wanted more now. She started talking about a future. About leaving Karen. About moving out of the neighborhood and starting fresh. But I wasn't sure I wanted that. I didn't want to start over. I wanted to finish what I started. Because Doug may have been the infection. But Karen was the wound. And wounds don't heal on their own. By fall, the leaves were changing, but everything else was stuck. Still. Waiting. Karen and I had become strangers in the same house. No fights, no yelling. Just silence. The kind that crept in between the walls and stretched out across the dinner table like a third person. I'd pour her coffee in the mornings, and she'd mumble a thank you like I was the mailman. Nothing more. No eye contact. No softness. The only time we ever shared a look was when we crossed paths in the hallway, those accidental moments when neither of us could hide. And in her eyes, I saw something I recognized: regret. Maybe even guilt. But there was also something sharper beneath it. Suspicion. Like she was waiting for the truth to rise out of the carpet. Meanwhile, Stacy and I saw each other more. It wasn't about lust anymore. Not really. It had evolved into something deeper, stranger. She came over when Karen worked late at the library, and we'd eat dinner on the patio like we were the real married couple. She laughed more now. Smiled without sadness. But she also asked questions. "You sure she doesn't know?" she said one night, sipping red wine beneath the porch light. "She doesn't ask," I told her. Stacy looked at me carefully. "That's not the same as not knowing." She was right. Karen was pulling away, but not blindly. I'd catch her reading things, news articles, medical reports. One afternoon I saw she had printed something about VA hospital procedural errors. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Just folded the paper and slid it into the trash. That was when I knew. She was digging. I went down to the garage that night. Just stood there for a while. The light was dim and the air smelled like old grass clippings and engine oil. That was where it all started, where I first heard the banging, opened the door, and saw Doug pushing her up against the tool cabinet. Her face a mixture of fear and twisted pleasure. His hand gripping her throat. Her voice saying, "No," and her body saying, "Maybe." That night had split my life in two. And standing there now, months later, I realized something. I didn't feel satisfied. Not really. Doug was dead. My marriage was a husk. Stacy had filled the space, but I wasn't whole. I had won, but what the hell had I won? I thought back to that barbecue. The laughter. The grilled ribs. The kids running barefoot across the lawn. Karen's hand slipping into mine as the sun went down. It was all fake, wasn't it? Or maybe just borrowed. I went back upstairs and found Karen sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey. Not a glass. Just the bottle. She looked up as I walked in. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. "I loved him," she said quietly. I nodded. "I know." There was a pause. "I know you did it," she added. My heart didn't skip. It stopped. I stayed standing. Still. No expression. "What do you think I did?" I asked. Her smile was tired. "You made sure he didn't come back. It doesn't matter how. You sound sure." She nodded slowly, then took another swig. "It's funny. You did what I couldn't." "I didn't do anything," I said. "He had a bad heart." She laughed at that. "Yeah. He did. But so do you." That stung more than I expected. We didn't say much else that night. She went to bed, her room, not mine, and I stayed downstairs, the bottle between my hands. The next morning, she was gone. Not her clothes. Not her car. Just her. She left a note. "Jake. We stopped being a family a long time ago. Whatever we were, we're not anymore. Maybe we never were. I hope you find peace. But I can't look at you without seeing what you took. What I gave away. Karen." I read it 3 times. Folded it. Put it in the drawer next to my receipts. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't chase after her. Instead, I picked up the phone and called Stacy. "I guess it's just us now," I said. She didn't sound surprised. "Are you sure that's what you want?" I looked around the kitchen. The garage door was closed. The table was empty. The house was still. Not really, I admitted. But it's what's left. And that's the thing about fire, once it's gone, it doesn't leave behind warmth. Just smoke, and the smell of everything you lost. I didn't call the police when Karen disappeared. Didn't call her parents. Didn't post on social media. She was a grown woman. She'd left on her own. I had the note in her handwriting and the echo of her footsteps fading down the front walk. If I was being honest, part of me felt relief. But relief isn't peace. And silence doesn't mean safety. The first sign came a week later. I found the fence gate unlatched. That might not sound like much, but I'm the kind of guy who double-checks locks and counts the seconds it takes the garage door to close. That same night, I noticed muddy boot prints near the back shed. No rain recently. No reason for anyone to be back there. I asked Stacy if she'd come around the yard lately. No, she said, frowning. Why? I shrugged. Thought maybe someone wandered through. Her brow pinched. Karen? Doubt it, I lied. But I wasn't so sure. 2 days later, I woke up to the smell of smoke. Not fire, just the dry, gritty scent of something burned. I rushed downstairs and found the grill lid half open, charred wood inside. Someone had tried to light it. Nothing caught, but it had smoldered long enough to leave a message. There was a single photo on the grill rack. It was from that first barbecue, the one that started it all. Karen and Doug, standing by the pool, her laughing, his hand on her lower back. On the back, written in red marker. Barbecue's not over. My hands went cold. I sat on the patio chair and just stared at the picture for a long time. Who had left it? Karen? Stacy? Was someone else involved? Someone who knew what I'd done? Or maybe it was just guilt, finally wearing a mask. I installed cameras the next morning. A full set. Front porch, backyard, garage, hallway, even one in the living room disguised inside an old speaker. I told myself it was for protection. Truth was, I wanted to see her. I wanted proof she'd come back. Proof I wasn't imagining things. For days, nothing. Just footage of squirrels, wind, the mailman. Until Tuesday. It was 3:17 a.m. when the back camera pinged. A figure stepped into the frame, hooded, slow, deliberate. They crouched by the garden bed, dug into the dirt, and pulled something out. A shoebox. They opened it. Stared inside. Then placed something in and reburied it. I watched the footage on a loop for hours. The camera caught a glimpse of their face in profile as they turned. Just a flash of jawline and hair. It was Karen. I dug up the box later that afternoon. Inside was a folded receipt from a hardware store and a burner phone. The receipt was for duct tape, rope, and a shovel. The phone had one number saved in it, K. That was it. No missed calls. No texts. Just the bare bones of something terrifying. Someone was preparing for something. Maybe her. Maybe me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the living room with the lights off, camera feeds glowing on my laptop screen. Around 2:30, the feed blinked. Someone was on the front porch. I leaned in, squinting. Not Karen. Stacy. She was barefoot, in a hoodie, pacing like she couldn't decide whether to knock or leave. I opened the door before she reached it. Hey, she said, startled. Something wrong? She hesitated. Can I come in? We sat in the kitchen. She didn't touch the tea I made. Her hands trembled. I saw Karen, she said finally. I waited. 2 nights ago. Outside my house. She didn't say anything. Just stared. Then walked off. My jaw tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if it was real, she said. I thought I imagined it. But now, I think she's watching us. I thought of the burner phone. The message on the photo. The box in the ground. She's planning something, I said. Stacy looked at me. Do you think she knows what you did? I didn't answer. Because the question wasn't whether Karen knew, the question was what she planned to do with it. That weekend, Stacy stayed with me. We barely spoke. Just existed in the same space, waiting for something we couldn't name. I kept the cameras up on every screen in the house. Then, on Sunday night, something new happened. The doorbell rang. I froze. No one rang doorbells anymore, not in this neighborhood. Not this late. I opened the door slowly. It wasn't Karen. It was a cop. Mr. Dawson? Yeah. He handed me a manila envelope. Found this dumped at the edge of Forest Creek Park. Had your name on it. I took the envelope, heart racing. What's in it? He shrugged. Didn't open it. But it's evidence now. If it contains anything illegal, you'll want to get a lawyer. I nodded stiffly, closed the door, and opened it in the kitchen with Stacy watching. Inside was another photo. Me and Stacy, on the porch 3 days ago. Her hands on my chest. My mouth on her neck. Next to the photo, a note. You took my love. I took your soul. Let's see what happens next. K. Stacy stepped back, covering her mouth. She's going to the police. I shook my head. No. She's playing with us. If she had real proof, she'd have used it. But that is proof. You said you weren't with her before Doug died. I stared at the note. Karen wasn't going to the police. She wanted something worse. She wanted to unravel me. Slowly. Publicly. Make me feel the humiliation I'd buried her under. The betrayal. The revenge. She wasn't going to kill me. She wanted me to rot. That night, my truck's tires were slashed. The morning after, Stacy's front window was shattered. Then the cameras stopped working. One by one, the feeds went black. It was Karen. She was back. And the barbecue wasn't over. It was just getting started. Stacy stood on my porch barefoot, trembling, not from cold, but from whatever she'd been carrying in her chest all day. Maybe all week. I motioned her in without a word. The porch light cut across her face, and for the first time in months, she looked scared. Not nervous. Not caught. Scared. She stood in the living room and rubbed her hands together like she didn't know what to do with them. I got a letter, she finally said. From who? She looked at me, unsure. It was typed. No return address. Just said one sentence. She reached into her hoodie pocket and handed me the paper. He buried more than a man. Check the garden. You're next. I read it again. And again. There was no signature. No threats. Just implication. Heavy, cold, and direct. Karen? I asked. I don't know, Stacy said. Do you think she knows about us? I didn't answer. She looked up sharply. Jake, do you think she wrote this? I walked to the kitchen and poured whiskey into a coffee mug with shaking hands. I don't know anything anymore. Stacy followed, whispering like the walls had ears. Someone's messing with us. I nodded. Yeah. And you're sure Karen's gone? I froze. What does that mean? She hesitated. You ever think, maybe she didn't leave because she wanted to? A beat of silence. Then I laughed, dry and low. You think I killed my wife? "I don't know what to think," she whispered. "But everything's different now. You're different." That stung more than I expected. Later that night, I took a flashlight out to the garden. My hands were still shaking. I dug where the shoebox had been. Nothing new. Just packed dirt. I moved to the flower bed near the back fence. Karen's tulips. She used to kneel here in the spring, humming with her fingers in the soil. I hadn't touched them since she left. I jabbed the shovel into the ground. It hit something hard. I knelt down and clawed through the soil. Plastic. Black. Large. I pulled it up. It was a sealed bag. Inside, a binder. Waterproof. I opened it slowly under the porch light. Dozens of photographs. Every one of them was of me. Me at the gas station. Me leaving Stacy's house. Me sitting in the garage drinking beer. Me staring out the bedroom window. Dates and times written on the back in block letters. One page had a sticky note that said, "Every man has a pattern. You're not special." My mouth went dry. I flipped to the last page. There was a map. Hand-drawn. A circle around a spot in the woods 20 minutes outside town. It said, "End of the trail. Bring Stacy." I didn't tell her about the binder. Not yet. I needed time to think. To plan. Was this a threat? A trap? A confession? Was Karen trying to scare us? Or warn us? The next morning, I drove out to the spot marked on the map. Took the trail alone, past the dead trees and silence. The wind through the trees sounded like whispering. Then I saw it. A tarp, half covered in leaves, weighed down by a rock. I pulled it away. It wasn't a body. It was a box. A cooler, locked with zip ties. On top. "Open it when you're ready to see who you really are." I left it there. I couldn't open it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Because some things are worse than secrets. Some things are mirrors. I stood over the cooler for at least an hour. The breeze whispered through the dry brush behind me, carrying faint creaks from the trees, like the woods themselves were watching. That box might have held my guilt in solid form. I could feel it radiating off the plastic. I didn't open it. Instead, I wrapped it in my jacket, stuffed it in my trunk, and drove home with my foot heavy on the gas the whole way. I parked in the garage, locked the car, and didn't touch it again that night. The next morning, Stacy showed up again, looking ragged. Her eyes were red, and her hair looked like she hadn't slept. She came inside without a word and dropped an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, photos. Not of me this time. Of her, Stacy. With me. At her place. At mine. One of us kissing in the back seat of my truck. Each picture had a date written in red pen. She swallowed. Someone left them on my doorstep this morning. Wrapped in butcher paper. I sat down. My legs didn't feel steady anymore. Stacy crossed her arms, staring at the floor. "You said she left. You said it was over." "It was," I said. "Then why is this still happening?" Her voice cracked. "Jake, someone is watching us. Maybe she's not gone. Maybe she never left." I thought of the camera feeds. The cooler. The note that said "Bring Stacy." And the one I couldn't stop hearing in my head. "You're not special." That night, I opened the cooler. I waited until after midnight, made sure the house was dark, the doors locked, and every curtain drawn. I opened it in the garage with gloves on, like I already knew something poisonous waited inside. Inside was a tablet. Already powered on. A video paused at the 5-second mark. The thumbnail was a black screen with just the words, "Watch what you missed." I hit play. At first, it was grainy footage from inside the garage. Night vision. Fixed angle. The same one I'd seen before on my camera feed. Only this wasn't my camera. It was hers. Karen's. The timestamp said it was recorded a week after she disappeared. She came in from the side door, alone. Looked thinner. She carried a red duffel bag, set it down, and unzipped it. Then she turned and stared directly at the lens. Like she knew it was watching. "I know you're following me," she said. Calm. Steady. "So let me make it easy. I'm not dead. I'm not crazy. And I'm not finished." She walked closer. "You think you cleaned up. You think he's buried. But you left pieces. I found them." Then she smiled. Not like before. Not soft or sweet. Predatory. "You weren't the only one digging." The video ended. I sat back, my pulse banging in my neck like a hammer. Karen knew. Not just about Doug. Not just about Stacy. She knew everything. But how? Had she been here, all along? In the shadows? In the walls of this story I thought I had control of? The next morning, the cameras were all dead. Every feed black. System offline. Batteries drained. Only one camera remained active, the speaker cam in the living room. And when I checked the last saved clip, my stomach flipped. It was from 2:17 a.m. A figure stood in the hallway. Just for a moment. Enough for the motion sensor to catch. A woman. The woman on the hallway cam. Just a glimpse. Hair falling around her shoulders. A blur of a figure in the dark. She didn't look at the camera. She didn't have to. I knew it was Karen. By the time I rewound and watched the footage again, the house was already colder. Like the air itself had changed. I grabbed the box with the binder, the photo from the grill, the burner phone, everything, and tossed it into the fire pit in the backyard. I poured gasoline over it like a man trying to burn away guilt. I struck the match. Flames leapt into the night. But the pit didn't take it all. The binder cover curled, melted, but the words still showed through in places. Her writing. Her warnings. I watched it burn, hoping the fire would carry something out of me. The next day, Stacy vanished. I called. No answer. I went to her house. Empty. No signs of struggle. Nothing missing except her phone and keys. But her porch light was smashed. And taped to the door was a sticky note that said, "Second course." Like this was all still her game. Karen. She was making us answer for what happened in that garage. Not legally. Not loudly. But piece by piece. A week passed. 2. Still no sign of Stacy. I filed a missing person report. Told the officer she'd been acting paranoid. Stressed. Said she might have left town. I didn't mention Karen. I didn't say anything about Doug. And I certainly didn't tell them what I saw on that final camera feed, what I had finally accepted. Karen wasn't gone. Karen never left. I moved out 3 days later. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every noise felt like her breath. Every creak was a footstep behind me. I rented a motel off Route 8. One of those old roadside ones where the sign flickers and the bed creaks if you so much as breathe wrong. I didn't sleep much anyway. Then one night, someone slid a note under the door. Folded paper. Plain. No envelope. You buried Doug. You burned the evidence. You lied to yourself. But not to me. You always said you wanted peace and quiet. Now you have it. K. There was a second page. It was a copy of my own handwriting. A note I didn't remember writing. But it looked like mine. Like something I'd scrawled in the dark, with a bottle beside me. It said, I never should have married her. I never knew her. I only knew the version she showed me, and when she stopped pretending, I didn't know what to do. So I made her disappear. I made him disappear. I thought that would be enough. But she was always smarter. I dropped the letter. My head swam. Had I written that? Did I confess, to myself? That night, I returned to the woods. I had to see the spot one more time. The clearing. The trail. The place where I'd found the cooler. But it was gone. Not just the cooler, everything. Like it had never been there. No disturbed dirt. No clearing. No trail. Just thick woods, still and breathless. I walked for hours. I circled back. My compass spun. Nothing made sense. When I returned to the motel, the front desk clerk said someone had checked me out. Your wife said you wouldn't be coming back, he said. What? She had your bags and everything. ID and all. I froze. Did she say where she was going? The clerk scratched his beard. Nope. Just said the story's over. I got in my car. No phone. No wallet. Just me. I looked in the rearview mirror. And there, sitting in the back seat, calmly like she'd always belonged there, was Karen. She smiled softly. Her head tilted. You always said you wanted her gone, she whispered. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. She leaned forward and whispered into my ear, just before everything went black. You should have just made better barbecue. They found the car a week later. Abandoned near a fire lookout tower. Engine cold. No keys. No trace of anyone. In the trunk, a rusted grill. And on the back seat, a single photo. Me and Karen. Smiling. But in the reflection of the car window, someone else was watching. And they were smiling, too.